Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Dandelion lesson. And I had a wonderful morning. I love spring. I love all the new growth and the flowers and the lawn and all the beautiful baby green leaves. And I love everything about spring. But it also means the return of the headache season for me. And some days are better than others. And I had a pretty good morning. So my daughter came over with my granddaughter and they played in the yard. And I got to see them, which was the best thing ever. And now I guess we're supposed to get rain this afternoon. So that's good because Rick planted the rest of our vegetable seeds in the garden. And so it's perfect. New moon, planting, and lots of rain. So our garden is on its way. And I didn't draw a card today for this, but I had something in mind because I've been thinking about it for myself. And what I wanted to talk about is the idea of neutrality and softness. And I have noticed in myself, and maybe you have noticed it in yourself, that throughout this time that we collectively have been experiencing life in coronavirus times, right? With all of the information that we're, given every day and all of the changes to our lives, right? I have found myself at times feeling very hard and getting angry and feeling judgmental or opinionated in ways that I really don't like. And so I've been thinking about this and I've been doing some reading in some of my favorite books. And one of the things that has sort of stuck out to me through my reading and through my journal writing in the morning is this idea of neutrality. And how hard it is, especially for someone like me who was born with like this immense sense of justice, right? I have a very strong sense of justice. And it's interesting because I would say that philosophically, like politically, I'm really very moderate. I can see both sides of things often, not always. If it has anything to do with civil liberties or equality, I'm very opinionated and have very strong views about that. But in general, I'm fairly moderate. And I believe that different ideologies and philosophies benefit our country in different ways at different times. I think we need different things at different times. I don't think it's one size fits all, and I don't think one way is the only way. But I have still found myself getting really riled up about things that really in the long run and in the big picture are not going to make a difference, right? And I have to sort of rein myself in and stop myself from feeling hard and like growing this hard shell around myself. And I have felt it really strongly lately, like this hard shell. And just saying smart ass things and being really clever. And when I start to get clever, I know I'm being hard, right? So I don't like that about myself. I don't, sometimes it's useful, but in general, that's not the way that I want to live my life. Because by nature, I'm a very soft person. I'm a very gentle person. And so when these things start to crop up in me, I really feel it and I think about it a lot. And so I thought I would bring that here today and even ask you if you want to write a little bit in the comments about your own experiences right now, and if you have found yourself getting angry at times or feeling hard or starting to grow sort of a hard shell, right? And I'm a Cancer moon, so I have the tendency, I feel things really deeply. I'm very empathic and I have a tendency to form a shell, right? If I don't feel protected or safe, or if I have fear about anything, I can grow a shell pretty quickly and I can be very withdrawn. But it's not really what I want. I want to be soft, right? I want to be gentle. I want to bring that to the world. I want to present to the world in a soft and gentle and neutral way, unless it's something, there are things where we cannot be neutral, right? Like if someone is causing harm to someone we love, or if someone is causing harm to the greater good, right? It's really hard to be neutral on those things. But there are a lot of things that we get hard about and really opinionated about that in the big picture don't really matter. And I'm wondering, as far as my creative practice, sometimes we can get really rigid in our practice, and we can sort of subscribe to a certain way of doing things, for instance. Like when I first started watercolor painting, the people that I learned from and the books I read and everything, it was very strong. Watercolorists don't use black. Watercolorists don't use white. If you're doing a transparent watercolor painting, it should only be transparent watercolor. All of those rules that felt very rigid to me. And in the end, I think can go two ways. They can either be a restriction that causes freedom, right? Because there is freedom in restriction sometimes. Like I talk about limited palettes, there's a freedom there. When we take away too many choices, we're more free to explore those choices and not have to worry about what we're using, right? But there's also a rigidity to rules that as my own practice has progressed and matured, that I don't find comfort in anymore, and I don't find any use for anymore. I don't find much use for rules in watercolor. And I have learned over time, for me, and it's how I teach, is that, there are rules, there are reasons to learn them, and they're meant to be broken, because in the end, what we really want is we want to be ready to portray, to document on our paper, our vision, our dreams, our feelings, what we want to document, right? We want to be free to express that. And for me personally, I will use whatever it takes, right? I'll use whatever it takes to get that effect. So yeah, black watercolor, I love it. I have many different kinds of black watercolor, and I like gouache too, as you've seen with our recent Macintosh project and other projects. I like putting graphite in my paintings. I like putting colored pencil. Sometimes I put ink, and I mix ink and watercolor, or I use a soft pastel, or there's so many things that I do, right? So I guess I want you to just think about ways in your life that perhaps you would like to find more neutrality and more softness and gentleness, and in your creative practice too, and how you show up to your work. Do you have a mind full of, I shouldn't do that, I won't be able to do this unless all of those things that can sit on our shoulders and inhibit us, right? So I just wanted to offer those thoughts. A couple things that I find that help me, and I've been trying to do more of it lately. Number one is meditation. There are so many ways to meditate, and some of it for me is just sitting down with a piece of paper and making marks, right? That's meditative for me, or watching color dance on the paper. But there are other kinds of meditation too, sitting meditation where you follow your breath, right? Or guided meditation or visualization. So many kinds, right? So many kinds. But a couple things that I use before I meditate. Number one, I will hold a crystal in my hand often. This one's very special to me. It was given to me by my dear friend Barb. And I will hold this in my hand, and it warms so nicely to my hand. And that's something that I'll do. And it reminds me to soften. Barb is one of the gentlest, softest people I know, and neutral in many ways, but also fierce. She's just like a remarkable person to me. And so I treasure this, and I think of her qualities. And the other thing that sometimes I do is I use rose oil. This is Rose Otto. Rose oil is way too expensive for me to buy. So I buy this one from Oracacia. It's still not inexpensive, but basically it's rose it's rose otto, so Rosa Damascena, rose oil, mixed into jojoba oil. Okay, so it's just a little bit of rose oil, but you only need a little bit, right? You don't need to buy pure rose oil. I could never afford that, and I wouldn't spend the money personally. This is fine for me, and I just, open the bottle and shake a few drops on my fingers and rub it between my fingers, and then I anoint my forehead and maybe under my nose and down my throat, and then I rub it into my heart space before I meditate, and I breathe that in, right? I'll even put it into my paint water sometimes. Just one drop in my paint water can make the water aromatic every time I swish my brush in it. So that's one thing. Rose is very calming to me, very grounding. And the other thing is I'll use a chakra spray. This one is by A Brighter Wild. This is the latest one. It's for the 4th chakra, which is our heart chakra, right? It has, let's see what she puts in here, rose, lavender, neroli, mandarin, jasmine, and she says Reiki energy. So whatever it is, it smells really nice. There are some crystals in it. When I shake it, I can hear them. I believe it's rose quartz, which is very good for your heart chakra. And I just sort of spritz myself freely, right, before I meditate. And I'll even use this before bed sometimes. This is not expensive either. I want to say it was like $11 on Etsy. So you don't have to spend a lot. And it lasts, I mean, I've had this for a long time. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. So those are just some ideas, right? Different ideas. And you may have your own, and please share them with us. Yoga, right? Yoga is very helpful, especially Shavasana. So I'm going to go ahead and put some lovely soft music on and spritz myself with my heart chakra spray and think about softness and neutrality and paint. sometimes you're done pretty quickly. I felt like it was done. It's beautiful to me, and I didn't want to go any farther. Yeah, so you notice that I started with black watercolor, one of the things that some watercolors are not neutral about. And then I used white watercolor up here, right? And sparkles. A lot of people won't put sparkles in their work. I love them. So just some things to think about today. Yeah. And I uploaded the reference image for our next watercolor project. I'll have the preliminary video for you over the weekend. Probably either tomorrow or Sunday. I'm not sure yet. Probably tomorrow. Yeah. So that'll be our week, and then next week we'll begin with a new watercolor project. Yeah, and then in June we'll have our new Ad Astra project, and I'm still digging on what I want to do for that, so I'm not sure yet. All right, everybody, I hope you're having a beautiful Friday or whatever day it is that you watch this. And please, as always, I invite you to share your thoughts. Okay? Thank you very much. Take care.